All right, we're going to get started where we left off. We left off at House Bill 332. I think Delegate Pippy brought up some very important questions and some clarifications that need to be made on this bill. So I'm going to refer to the committee counsel to go ahead and explain some of this stuff away so we can get this party started. Let's go.
Okay, so the first thing about House Bill 332 is that the protections in the EFTA Act only apply to unauthorized transfers. So I think the example that was given earlier would not apply because it was not an unauthorized transfer. It's strictly designed to protect people who make a transfer without the consumer's actual authorization and they receive no benefit from the transfer. Also, consumer liability is limited. If an unauthorized transfer is reported within the first 2 business days, liability may be limited to $50. If reported within 60 days, liability may go up to $500. After 60 days, the consumer may be fully liable, so consumers have to report immediately. The bill as drafted is intended to put state banks and federal banks on an even par. Hence the provision in there, as Brian calls it, the kill provision. If for some whatever reason, federal banks are not found where they have to, perform up to the bill, then state banks also won't be subject to the bill.
So to make it clear for the record, if this does move on, the intent of this body is to make sure that we do not hold the state banks to a different standard than we would hold the federally regulated banks. This is not for, and Delegate Rose is not here. The example that she put about basically where an elderly person was either tricked or maybe not in a good headspace and they authorize a transaction, this would not protect that person. And while I would like to do more, this bill does not do that. It is mainly for individuals whose accounts are hacked due to data breaches, things of that nature, and then money is transferred out. It's a way to give them some protection. And there is a question about the enforceability because normally federal banks just get to skate because they're not being held to a standard. But to be clear, this is something we already do for federal banks and all banks when it comes to out-of-country transfers. We are just holding them to the same standard for state transfers, intra or interstate transfers.
Move the bill as amended.
Are there any questions or discussion on this bill? On the bill as amended, Delegate Crosby.
Aye.
Delegate Harrison.
Aye.
Delegate Boafo. Aye. Delegate Howard.
Yes.
Delegate Sharkoudian.
Yes.
Delegate Rose is excused. Delegate Pruski.
Aye.
Delegate Fennell.
Aye.
Delegate Turner.
Aye.
Delegate Valderrama.
Yes.
Delegate Chi.
Aye.
Delegate Frazier-Dago.
Aye.
Delegate Adams.
No.
Delegate Arentz.
No.
Delegate Pippy.
Yes.
Delegate Johnson.
Aye.
Delegate Rogers.
Yes.
Delegate Ampery.
Aye.
Delegate Weibel.
No.
Delegate Fisher.
No.
And Delegate Queen. All right, colleagues, before we move on, for my friends on the other side of the aisle, is there any other issues that you have with this bill that you feel that we not resolve, or is it just the mere principle of the bill? Only because I'm trying to hear.
We've already voted the bill.
Oh.
First off, my problems were trying to figure out what the penalty on this was.
I apologize, we didn't explain that.
No, there's no reason to revisit it. The bill's voted on. I voted my conscience on it.
You're fine. No, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to call you out. I mean, is there anything else we could do to resolve any issues that you had? Apologize. Yeah, I'm not trying to call you out. Got you. I'm just used to Weibel saying no, so just mess with you.
There's got to be another way to do it. I mean, you know, it's going to be good, of course,
I'm,
a couple months until somebody takes it to court.
okay, got you.
Oh, hold on, Rose is here.
Delegate Rose?
I would be yes on
Thank you.
that. This is the wire bill?
Yep. Oh, to be clear, Delegate Rose, the issue that you brought up, unfortunately, it does not cover that.
It does not?
No. So it only covers individuals if you're Your account was hacked, fraud. So if you authorize it, if that lady was tricked and she was not in her right, or his or her right headspace, and they were duped into doing something and trading away all their assets, this would not protect them.
I'm still yes.
Okay, thank you. Next bill, please.
House Bill 577, as introduced, authorizes the comptroller to issue citations to enforce certain provisions of law concerning business licenses. There is an amendment in your packet that alters the bill and requires the comptroller to consult with certain stakeholders to study and make recommendations on the enforcement process for miscellaneous state business licenses.
Move the amendment.
Second.
On the amendments, we have any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none on the bill.
Move the bills amended.
The bill is an amendment. Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none. Delegate Crosby.
Aye.
Delegate Harrison. Delegate Boafo. Delegate Howard.
No.
Delegate Charkoudian. Delegate Rose. Delegate Pruski. Delegate Fennell. Delegate Turner. Delegate Valderrama. Delegate Chi. Delegate Frazier Hidalgo. Delegate Adams.
Yes.
Delegate Aaron's. Delegate Pippy. Delegate Johnson. Delegate Rogers. Delegate Ampry. Delegate Wyvel. Delegate Fisher. Delegate Queen. Bill moves. Next bill, please.
House Bill 829, as introduced, this bill requires an application for CPCN for the construction of an overhead transmission line to include analysis of alternatives to the proposed transmission line, the transmission line route selected by the applicant, and the use of advanced transmission technologies, and whether their use will delay or avoid future transmission or generation upgrades. There is an amendment. The amendment removes the requirement that the applicant provide an analysis of alternatives to the proposed transmission line and instead provide evidence of alternatives that the applicant considered, and changes the reporting requirement from every 2 years to every 4, and allows the PSC to modify the reporting schedule.
Move the amendments.
Is there discussion on these amendments? Delegate Pippy, do you want to wait for the bill?
Got another amendment.
Yeah,
I do have another amendment. I didn't
do.
know if some of those amendments conflicted with the amendments you put in.
I don't think they do.
Okay. On the amendments, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. On the bill as amended, Delegate Pippy.
So I gave an amendment to Dwayne. So I'll just say what it is. So obviously, this transmission issue is very important to my district, and a lot of us have been working on this issue for close to a year. And as I understand it, no transmission bills are going to move except this one. So we have a good faith amendment that does not strike anything in the bill. It just adds some things that were left out that we think would really make a difference on this issue. We see it as a good faith amendment. I gave a copy to Dwayne. I'm happy to go over what the amendment does.
Please do.
So I think 829, for the record, which I'm planning on supporting, just leaves out 3 things which my amendments would cover. So 829 does not require an applicant that is seeking to build a transmission line to examine their project's impact on historical, environmental, or agricultural preservation areas. In Frederick County, the proposed MPRP project runs through 27 historical resources, a Maryland Environmental Trust easement, and several agricultural land preservation areas. Utility companies and Public Service Commission ought to consider a project's impact on these important areas as their protection is in public interest. That's point 1. The second part is HB 29 does not require them to consider their route's proximity to planned growth areas or areas zoned for residential use. In a state facing significant housing shortage, the impact to areas that are set aside by counties and municipalities for vital housing should at least be considered in the CPCN process. The impact of MPRP on home values and property development has been a prevailing concern. That's the second part. And the last part is HB 829. There's some ambiguity about whether there's a requirement to evaluate alternative routes to the proposed construction. So the amended version of HB 829 requires the PSC to consider evidence that alternatives were considered by the applicant. Currently, Public Utilities Article 7209 only requires alternatives to be evaluated under certain circumstances. So this amendment would eliminate that ambiguity by altering the Public Utilities Article 7209 to require the PSC to consider alternatives. So in other words, as I mentioned in my presentation, the way the law is currently set up is the Public Service Commission doesn't have to consider anything else if two boxes are checked. And those two boxes are convenience and cost to the ratepayer. There's no other categories that's required to check because it's a may. It says MAY. So that's the amendment in a nutshell. If you guys want to vote it down, so be it. But I want to do my part and at least put it in there. So,
Delegate Sarkoodian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The bill, if folks take a look at it, let me just say, I want to say two things about it. One is that this area of law is really tricky because FERC has jurisdiction over transmission lines. And so the way that I wrote this bill very carefully in partnership with the Attorney General and the Public Service Commission was to make sure that the way that we directed the Public Service Commission to direct transmission owners to consider alternative routes was consistent with the jurisdiction that we have within the state of Maryland. And so we do actually require the consideration of alternative routes. And so if you are on the bottom of page 5, top of page 6, and it lists the things that need to be considered, that they need to demonstrate in their application. One of them is alternatives to the proposed transmission line, analysis of advanced transmission technologies, alternative routes, technologies or modifications to one or more of the systems, considering a bunch of different ways that you could either not have to build the transmission, build it in a different way, or build it in a way that at least avoids future transmission. I think the location where Delegate Pippi's amendment wants to put those ideas of alternative routes is not necessarily consistent with the way the PSC thinks they would have to do this to be able to not be in violation of FERC jurisdiction. So that's on the second part where the second half of his amendment, which I think is covered in my bill, but it's a question of where we put it because of the jurisdictional issues. The first part of his amendment lists specific areas of specific types of lands that have to be considered. The goal of the transmission bill and the alternatives and the way that I have written it is to consider alternatives in any number of types of locations, and I think it's inappropriate for us to list certain places. I mean, we could also talk about environmental justice communities. We could list all the different areas that different people have an interest in not having transmission lines going through. I think we want to ask the PSC to consider alternatives. We want to ask them to consider the local community's position, which is also in my bill. And the ability of the transmission owner to engage with the local communities. But I think it's dangerous to start listing and picking and choosing the kinds of communities and the kinds of areas that we want them to pay particular attention to. So for that reason, I would reject the first half of the amendment, and I think the second half of the amendment is repetitive but potentially violates the jurisdictional issue that's in the bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Delegate Pippi.
well, look, I was just going to say, I've heard you say, 100 times that we regulate the Public Service Commission. And so here you are yielding to the Public Service Commission. So I just want that to be on the record. But I would just say this, the difference is my bill requires the Public Service Commission to look at things, whereas I don't know if your bill per se does that. It asks the applicant to do things, but again, this was not an attempt to do anything negative to your bill. It was only to just improve it just slightly. And I'm planning on supporting your bill, but I would be remiss if I didn't at least offer the amendment because it was not considered.
I think for clarification, it wasn't the PSC, the conflicts with the PSC that we were concerned with or that she was concerned with. It was conflicts with FERC in that jurisdiction, I believe was part of the explanation, not to be dismissive of what you were doing and trying to do. I want to make sure that, obviously there's a few other people have questions, but I just want to make sure that, well, the other, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also want to say on the first part of this amendment, I think that this is going to come up in a different context in a future bill. And I don't think that we want to set this precedent for a different reason. I understand what we're doing. Frankly, some of these transmission projects that are going through, I'm not saying that we don't need them, but it's been, I have watched from afar what has taken place, and I know how difficult it has been for those counties and areas. And so I get what you're trying to do here. I think that this would have potentially a greater negative impact for a lot of us on a future bill. And I don't think that we should adopt that port.
Say a future bill, you mean
The solar bill?
this year?
This year.
For clarification, a lot of these things, I believe, are going to be addressed in a different way. So not, again, not being dismissive, you have obviously a right to push your amendment. You also had an amendment to put your name on the bill. I know that if the amendments don't come out in your favor, did you still want to do that at least?
Sure, I'm still taking it at this point. No, I mean, look, I am supportive of moving the needle, and I think your bill moves the needle to some extent. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Can we, I mean, I don't want to push the issue. Should we not vote on it? Should we vote on it, or?
I'd rather not, but. Please.
Mr. Chair, make an amendment, make a motion for an amendment to add Delegate Pippy as a co-sponsor.
Number two. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I see other lights going on, so that's the one amendment we've adopted. We still have the possibility of the others. Delegate Rose. Pippi, turn your mic off.
I don't know if it's too late. I mean, I will support the bill as well. And you mentioned Frederick County. Is this include, would your amendment, I mean, we're not going to vote on the amendment, but did it include Carroll and? Okay. And I just think, you know, just to speak in support of the amendment, you know, we talked about the companies that are coming forward, and I've talked about numerous times about the trust issues we've had with the actors that we've been dealing with. And so that's a big issue for me. I just want that on the record. And, you know, we do come back all the time, year after year, and amend things and change things and fix things. So I just don't see the problem with the amendment and adding it. But I will go on the bill, and I'll support the bill. But I would have preferred the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Let me just say that I certainly support the amendment, especially when in context of cultural and historical significance. Number one, we just amended the bill per the sponsor's amendment. So talk to me a little bit. Let me back up. Walk me through what the bill did as far as consideration, because that was part of the conversation we just had, as far as transmission before the amendment. What was to be considered and what level was it to be considered at? Because quite frankly, the amendment that was offered and accepted by the sponsor sort of, in my mind, based on the 20 seconds, 15 seconds of dialogue that it took, sort of opened that up a little bit and made it less prescriptive. So I'd like to hear from legal staff.
So the bill as drafted would have required that an applicant for a CPCN would have included in their application an analysis of alternatives to the proposed transmission line. Amended, it requires that they provide evidence that they considered alternatives.
So that, what would be considered evidence? Like they sat around a room and went, well, we thought about it and, you know, no. Like meeting minutes?
I believe that would be up to the Public Service Commission to determine whether they provided.
Does the Public Service Commission have precedent? I mean, is there examples of precedent that we've seen from the Public Service Commission of what that evidence would be? Because quite frankly, that is very open-ended language as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. What the language says is evidence that the applicant considered as part of the applicant's internal planning process, any local, state, or federal government transmission planning processes and any transmission planning processes required by PJM Interconnection LLC, including, and then it lists all the alternatives that they have to show. So this is the piece that gets at what we do and don't have jurisdiction over. And if we pass something, as much as we may want the PSC to control interstate transmission, if we pass something that they don't have jurisdiction over and it gets tossed out in court, then we have nothing. As it stands right now, this forces transparency for the applicant to have to disclose the PJM process that led to the approval and all of the alternatives that were considered at PJM. It has
But
to.
in what manner were they considered? That's what I'm getting at.
It's PJM's.
What's the level, what's the threshold? It sounds to me, quite frankly, that this could be an internal decision, and they could essentially just say, we considered it, and we consider it not. And that is it.
How does this change that?
We talked about alternative, because there's this, because based on the definitions read by legal, there was a specified,
It just says an analysis.
a specified analysis. This is basically them sending an email or writing on a cocktail napkin, quite frankly. We considered it, and
That'd be the same thing they could do with an analysis. If we thought about these 8 things and this is how we.
but that would include the analysis of why they didn't consider why they ruled out the other 8 things.
So just to be clear, the amendments are to make sure that we are not violating federal preemption. So there's another way I would have written this bill if I could control the whole world.
Please.
This bill was written so that we are consistent with and not in violation of preemption. The Attorney General weighed in on this, the Public Service Commission weighed in on this, and so we're walking a very fine line of the things that are in control within the state and the things that aren't. And the changes that I made are changes that I made so that we would be consistent with federal law and we wouldn't be preempted.
Vice Chair.
Howard, would it help if we made an amendment that the analysis has to be provided to the General Assembly?
Yes.
There's no analysis yet. We cut out the words analysis. So
That's the-
we
that's-
now move from analysis to
Right.
provide evidence that they have at least
And
looked at
that's-
those things. So what he wants to do is go back to the original language of analysis.
No, I'm asking what has changed?
Whatever it is, he wants it to be public.
And I want the thought process and the decision-making process to be public on why they reached and the conclusion that they did as far as routing.
Can people read the bill?
But you've amended the bill, and you've amended the bill from evidence, or I'm sorry, from analysis to
Hang on,
evidence.
can I read the bill, Mr. Chair? Okay, so let's read the whole bill out loud.
No.
No, seriously,
seriously.
because this is what they need to disclose. Let's keep reading.
But you've changed.
Hold on.
This is as amended.
Alternatives to the proposed transmission.
This is previous to the amendment. I
What he's
mean,
worried about is you've amended some of this stuff out.
No, I
Right.
haven't. I'm reading what's in there.
I'm trying to get you to explain it. This has not been amended out of the bill. Go
No,
ahead, please.
I'm reading what's in the bill.
okay.
As amended, this is what will be in the bill if the amendments that you put on.
The application has to include evidence that the applicant considered as part of the applicant's internal planning process, local, state, federal, PJM. So that forces them to show the PJM process, which right now is a non-transparent process. Alternatives to the proposed transmission line, an analysis of advanced transmission technologies and whether the use of technologies could delay or prevent the need for future.
The word analysis still, wasn't that taken out?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No, it's not taken.
This way. I'm letting you explain yourself. I'm pointing this out for a valid reason. Because while the word analysis was taken out in another section, it wasn't taken out of this section.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's
Please
correct.
go.
Okay.
Alternative routings, technologies or modifications to one or more distribution system. That's the part that requires them to show, could you make a change in the distribution system that could avoid the need for the transmission line? Cost to ratepayers, impact on resource adequacy, the impact on the environment, a review of integrated transmission distribution system to address the need for the transmission line. So all of those are ways to look at, do you actually need this transmission line, or could you address it with these other ways? Any information that the commission considers appropriate, and an analysis of the transmission line route
that still in the bill?
That is still in the bill. Everything I'm reading is
Okay.
still in the bill, including risks associated with the cost estimate, cost containment, construction schedule, acquisition of land and right-of-way, outage coordination, the applicant's experience working with communities and stakeholders on route consideration. All of that is still in the bill.
Does legal concur?
With what's in the bill?
Yeah, no, based
Yes,
on, based
her,
on your
her
amendment.
analysis, her,
Hold on, this is a big freaking deal.
Yeah, but she just read the law.
I understand.
her explanation of what's still in the bill is correct.
Okay.
Was your concern, and this is what I think the Vice Chair was trying to get to, was your concern that it still was not transparent enough and that maybe it needed to be brought out?
No, that they wouldn't have to submit, but it's in there's two different sections of the bill that talk about analysis.
Yes, sir.
I'm clarifying for the folks
Yes,
that are
sir.
watching this.
I understand what you're doing,
Yes.
buddy.
So I appreciate the sponsor of the bill and the amendments, vigorous explanation of the legal ramifications of the bill, but I wanted to hear from legal about the bill because of the impact and quite frankly, the consternation, to use one of the vice chair's favorite words, over this type of project. And I think it's absolutely, within the scope and what we should be doing. So if legal says that is the correct definition, basically the reprint of the bill after the acceptance of the amendment, perfect. That's fine.
We understand the primacy of this issue, and we smell what you're stepping in. So I think we're close. Go ahead, Delegate Pippy.
What I want to do, just to make it kind of go away. So I don't want to cause a problem, but
Too late.
yeah. So can I make a motion just to move forward on her bill as amended without my amendment and let's just go around
Not
and be
even
done
your
with it?
name.
Yep. Not
You
even
don't even
my
want your name on it anymore.
Nope. Let's just go do that way. Straight
Sure.
through. Yep.
You've already taken that amendment.
All good.
You're good with
You've
that.
already taken that amendment.
So
You'd like us to not
okay.
take that amendment.
Well, this was the second amendment to remove my name, and then we're going to go around and be done with it. And I'm done. Everybody done?
Do we need a third amendment?
The verbal amendment.
Yep. Verbal
to
amendment,
remove
just like the
Delegate
first
Pippy's
one.
name from the record.
Yep. All right.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I oppose. But the ayes have it.
Good.
On the bill as amended,
Move the bill as amended.
I apologize, Mark. I didn't see her.
Bill, so. when you're
Okay, on the bill as amended, any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes. So my issue with this particular bill is that I haven't seen the bill yet that illustrates where we're going to get additional generation first. I haven't seen that bill.
Can I say
So-
trust me, or
We obviously need more generation, so it's like, well, let's build the transmission lines, and then we're going to tell you where the generation's going to be. That is not the way I would want to do business, and that's not the way my constituents want to do it. And this is coming from someone who is going to have a $100 million project in his district, building new transmission equipment and a substation at a nuclear power plant. So we're doing our part, but I think that the citizens of the state should have information of whether or not there's going to be more transmission before this bill passes. So I do appreciate the chairman and the vice chairman working on this in the background, and I know that that's probably the case, but at the moment, it's hide the ball. And so I'm not going to vote for this bill for that
just
reason.
letting you know, we're not hiding the ball, we're just still building the ball. So there is no surreptitious intent, there's nothing about that.
Building the ball.
Trying to run with his analogy, I'm tired. But, Mr. Vice Chair?
Yeah, I would also say, Delegate Fisher, that in your district, they're trying to co-locate a data center with 1/6 the state's power or 1/3 the state's power, and that project would result in significantly more transmission lines in a vast majority of our counties if it were to go online.
Respond to that very simply and say that had you had nuclear power in the renewable energy portfolio standard a decade ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Well,
I was deployed a decade ago.
but, okay, any other discussion? On the bills amended, Mr. Vice Chair?
Aye.
Delegate Harrison? Delegate Boafo? Delegate Howard? Yes. Delegate Charkoudian? Yes. Delegate Rose? Yes. Delegate Pruski? Aye. Delegate Fennell? Aye. Delegate Turner? Aye. Delegate Valderrama? Yes. Delegate Chi? Aye. Delegate Frazier-Ladago? Aye. Delegate Adams? No. Delegate Aaron's? No. Delegate Pippy? Yes. Delegate Johnson? Aye. Delegate Rogers? Delegate Amprey? Delegate Weigel? Delegate Fisher? Delegate Queen. Bill moves. Next bill, please.
House Bill 992 alters the time periods within which specified legal actions may be taken by the Securities Commissioner in the Office of the Attorney General or by a franchisee under the Maryland Franchise Registration and Disclosure Law. There is an amendment that removes the registration requirement before an offer to sell or sale of the franchise, removes the requirement that the Securities Commissioner require a franchise registration exemption be indexed, alters the time period within which a person may bring an action under the Maryland Franchise and Disclosure Law, and requires the commissioner to establish a pilot program to expedite the review of the franchise registration renewal applications not later than 30 calendar days at the end of the registrant's fiscal year.
Move the amendment.
Discussion?
No.
Delegate Queen.
Do the amendments address the favorable amendments that the Maryland State Bar Association raised?
I know the amendments were specifically from the chair, or the sponsor. So I'm not sure if they do address those bar issues. I'm sorry?
Yeah, there's a renewal fee.
Hasn't there always been one?
Yeah.
We call it a renewal
Pilot- for
tariff,
a
so you
pilot
should be okay with it.
Yeah.
Okay. On the bill as amended, do we move the amendments?
Yes,
Did you?
I did. Move the amendment. We'll do it again.
There you go.
Lily second.
On the amendment, Lily second, okay, we did, you're right. So on the,
Again. Move the bill as amended.
on the bill as amended, any more discussion? Seeing none. Mr. Vice Chair.
Aye.
Delegate Harrison. Delegate Boafo. Delegate Howard. Delegate Charkoudian. Delegate Rose. Delegate Pruski. Delegate Fennell. Delegate Turner. Delegate Valderrama. Delegate Chi. Delegate Frazier-Dago. Delegate Adams. Delegate Aaron's. Delegate Pippy. Delegate Johnson. Delegate Rogers. Delegate Amprey. Delegate Weigel. Delegate Fisher. Delegate Queen. Bill moves. Next bill, please.
House Bill 1046, as introduced, prohibits a licensed vehicle dealer, obligor, or agent from making deceptive or misleading statements regarding a mechanical repair contract. There's an amendment that alters language in the bill to prohibit a mechanical repair contract from containing a provision precluding coverage and prohibits a mechanical service guarantor or provider from denying coverage for a claim for service for a motor vehicle for issues identified in a technical service bulletin.
Move the amendment.
On the amendments, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, hearing none?
Move the bill as amended.
On the bill as amended, is there any discussion? Do we need to do a roll call on this bill? Delegate Crosby?
Aye.
Delegate Harrison? Delegate Boafo? Delegate Howard? Delegate Charkoudian? Delegate Rose? Delegate Pruski? Delegate Fennell? Delegate Turner? Delegate Valderrama? Delegate Chi? Delegate Frazier-Dago? Delegate Adams? Delegate Aaron's? Delegate Pippy? Delegate Johnson? Delegate Rogers? Delegate Amprey? Delegate Weigel? Delegate Fisher? Delegate Queen. Bill moves. Next bill, please.
House Bill 1106 has an amendment that authorizes the Department of Labor to adopt regulations to establish requirements and procedures for registration of sellers of travel and for enforcement of the act. It also strikes the Division of Consumer Protection from the bill, authorizes the Department of Labor to set fees by regulation, prohibits the department from increasing fees by more than a certain amount annually, requires providers of travel services to file proof of a certain amount of professional liability and omissions insurance annually, removes requirements that providers of travel services file certain documents related to financial security and surety, removes criminal penalties, and establishes requirements for collection and distribution of all fees.
Move the amendments.
On the amendments, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none.
Move bills amended.
On the bill as amended, Delegate Adams.
Is this on the bill?
This is on the bill as amended, sir.
Okay, so this came out of subcommittee, and I just want to say that with the amendments, I'm supporting the bill. This is one of those regulation issues that come up sometimes, and as the bill was introduced, I think it was very unworkable and difficult, but at the end of the day, the amendments, I think, came from industry. Like, I think industry wants to be at least self-regulated to the extent that they've got customers that have concerns, and so this is a registry bill, if I get it right. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the registry allows people like me that want to go on trips to Europe or wherever, and we just want to make sure we're buying from somebody that is quote-unquote trusted. This was not the kind of bill I would have supported without the amendments, but at the end of the day, if we're going to talk about consumer protection, the best way to do that from a state perspective is to work with industry. That's what this bill is, and I'll be glad to support it. I like this registry bill.
There you go. All right. On the bill as amended, any more discussion, guys? Mr. Vice Chair.
Aye.
Delegate Harrison. Delegate Boafo. Delegate Howard.
No.
Delegate Charkoudian. Delegate Rose. Delegate Pruski. Delegate Fennell. Delegate Turner. Delegate Valderrama. Delegate Chi. Delegate Frazier-Odago. Delegate Adams. Delegate Aaron's. Delegate Pippy. Delegate Johnson. Delegate Rogers. Delegate Amprey. Delegate Wyval. Whoa. Delegate Fisher. There we go. Delegate Queen. Delegate Queen, you're up, right? Bill moves. Next bill, please.
House Bill 1111 expands eligibility under the Small Solar Energy Generating System Incentive Program to include floating solar energy generating systems on non-navigable bodies of water with generating capacities between 20 kilowatts and 5 megawatts. There is an amendment that removes the blanket tax exemption for a floating system and instead allows each county and Baltimore City to decide whether to provide tax benefits for these projects and to what extent, and specifies the type of floating system that is eligible to take part in the program.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. On the bill as amended. Steve.
Can somebody describe to me what the terms mean? Floating systems and, well, I know what a brownfield is. What is a floating? A pond. Okay. One of my biggest problems with the bill is anything I try to do on the water, covering the water in any capacity, DNR has tore me up. I can't do it. I can't even put a floating dock in at my pier. And there is wildlife under this, and I mean, I understand, I appreciate what you're doing, trying to take it away from farmlands, but that's why I don't think I could support the bill.
Did DNR weigh in on this bill? Is there any pushback?
There was opposition from MECO, but with the amendments, I believe they are in support of the bill now.
It's one, correct me if I'm wrong, it's one project?
Yeah.
In a
Well,
swimming pool?
my dock was only one dock, but I get what you're saying.
I know.
We get you. On the bill as amended, any other discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Vice Chair.
Aye.
Delegate Harrison. Delegate Boafo. Delegate Howard.
No.
Delegate Charkoudian. Delegate Rose. Delegate Pruski. Delegate Fennell. Delegate Turner. Delegate Valderrama. Delegate Chi. Delegate Frazier-Odago. Delegate Adams.
No.
Delegate Aaron's. Delegate Pippy. Delegate Johnson. Delegate Rogers. Delegate Amprey. Delegate Wyval. Delegate Fisher. Delegate Queen. Bill moves. Next bill, please.
House Bill 1273 modifies the definition under the customer-cited solar program, expands the permissible uses of non-solar alternative compliance payment revenues in the Strategic Energy Investment Fund, alters the authorized uses of Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative proceeds in SEEF, relating to building and transportation electrification and modifies CEF reporting requirements.
The motion is favorable. Is there any discussion? Dr. Howard?
How does it expand use of C funds?
Adopt that amendment, right?
No, thought we still did something, didn't we?
So the bill adds building and transportation sector electrification to the allowable uses of the C fund. It expands the use of non-solar alternative compliance payments to include households with low to moderate income and clarifies the definition of households with low to moderate income.
What's the definition in the bill of low to moderate income? Thank you. I think Steve's got some.
You're fine. On the bill moving favorable, Mr. Vice Chair. Aye. Doggett Harrison. Doggett Boafo. Doggett Howard. Doggett Charkoudian. Doggett Rose. Doggett Pruski. Doggett Fennell. Doggett Turner. Doggett Valderrama. Doggett Chi. Doggett Frazier Odago. Doggett Adams. Doggett Ernst. Doggett Pippy. Doggett Johnson. Doggett Rogers. Doggett Amprey. Doggett Weibel. Doggett Fisher. Doggett Queen. Bill moves. Next bill, please.
House Bill 1348 prohibits a contractor or a person acting on behalf of a contractor from soliciting or attempting to solicit a disaster victim within 48 hours after the disaster. The amendments in your packet do several things. They alter various definitions so that they comply with the Maryland Home Improvement Commission's. It adds in a 5-day right of rescission and requires notice of that right. It limits the amount an owner would have to pay as a penalty for their rescission. It alters the 48-hour requirement so that now the contractor can't come within 500 feet during that time.
Amendment. Move the amendment?
Yeah.
Okay.
On the amendments, any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none on the bill.
Move the bill as amended.
The bill is amended. Delegate Pippy?
So does the bill still prohibit someone from reaching out within a certain hours from the disaster?
Different bill.
You mean with,
Are we on 1348?
I apologize. Yeah, same bill, my bad.
you said during a particular time frame?
Yeah.
Or,
There was no time frame limit.
yeah, I didn't. So it was the 48 hours, so they can, so now with the amendments, during or within a 48 hours after a disaster, the contractor or person acting on them, they can't come within 500 feet of the.
They solicit in person within 500 feet.
Yeah.
Of the incident or their property. So
Within 48 hours?
Yes.
For the
So
first
that's
48
still in
hours.
there. Okay, so here's my question is, and this is to go after bad actors, and I'm just gonna be honest. Would this also prohibit somebody that actually genuinely was trying to help in a good way?
So
Like if you were like legit trying to help, maybe offer services to a disaster, like something that happened in North Carolina, within that 48-hour period, and you violate this, what's the penalty?
if a violation of it is an unfair, abusive, the same consumer protection, unfair, abusive, or deceptive trade practice.
It's solicitation, not, so if someone needs a boat to get out of a flooded house, that's not solicitation.
Yeah.
That's services. If you're coming out with a flyer or a card, that's solicitation.
Okay.
Solicitation is different than providing a help or service.
Well, I mean,
Well, let's be clear. No, because if I offer within 48 hours
Yeah.
to clean up, I do a Serve Pro thing and I want to clear out your house and I offer that, that's solicitation.
and you're,
Meaning, huh?
well, I should have said that, but
You
you're.
can still do that via phone, or even, the amendment says you can't solicit in person.
We know. I just
Yeah.
want to clarify
Yeah.
that it's not, providing a service, you can solicit to provide a service. So Serve Pro, for example, with this bill, just within the first 48 hours, you cannot approach them within 500 feet of the residence. You can still call them, email them.
Yeah.
Um,
No, listen, and I get the merits of the bill. I'm sure I think it would also impact good faith actors too, so
And
that's all.
we've had this discussion.
Yep.
That we just realized good faith actors can also
Yep.
call you.
Yep, thank
They can
you.
also reach out to you.
Yep.
Adams?
I mean, I know a business owner is in the realm of water damage and water mitigation. You don't want to wait on that. So, I mean, so long as this bill doesn't impact that, but a lot of that's done through phone calls and emails, not
Yeah.
just walking down the street trying to
Right,
sell
and that's the
services.
point, or through your insurance company, all that stuff, that's all done.
It doesn't stop the homeowner.
Doesn't stop that.
The homeowner can reach out.
Often at these sites, you have, if you're a licensed contractor, like all the Thomas people who came during the bill hearing, they often will work with the police, work with the firefighters, like, hey, I'm here to offer services, and they will help direct victims to make sure they get the right services they need. The problem we're having now is people are literally approaching people while they're holding their items while their house is still on fire. We don't want that. There's no reason you should be approaching someone while their house is on fire and they're holding their items to give them a card to try and sell them services.
So I've been on the board of the American Red Cross for the Lower Shore for a handful of years, so I know what disasters look like, and I know that there are services that are needed. Those are normally fire-related. And the consumers, I mean, are you trying to fix somebody showing up in a neighborhood where there was like a hurricane and people are going around trying to be predatory in their sales practice? Okay, which is different than, hey, my house flooded or I had a fire and.
You can reach out to anybody as a consumer. You're still allowed to go.
And you could, and under this, it's in person. You could still put a flyer and walk away. It's in person in person. Mm-hmm.
There's just no pressure sales tactics. Yes, sir.
I didn't think of this earlier. What about the neighborhood, senior centers or something like that, senior neighborhood, where these people, they don't know who to call, they don't know what to do. They're just lost and confused. Is this going to stop those people that could be helpful, that aren't malicious, from coming over to help? Because they're going to be looking for help from someone.
Under that scenario, I would assume they're family members, but yes, they're not gonna be able, and that's actually my greater concern, is that they're gonna go in there and prey on the elderly who don't know what they're doing, or somewhat confused, or seeing their life go up in smoke, or there's water damage, and what you don't want is somebody saying, I can do all this for $20,000. You sign that contract. Now, if this does happen, they've got a right of rescission period that they didn't have before, because sometimes once their younger children find out that you've been duped, this allows them to get out of that contract and not locked in because they panic and somebody approached them.
Okay. And I appreciate that, but I also appreciate the fact that I may be lost. I may not have the kids. I may just be that person that's sitting there wondering, what do I do? There's nobody here to help me right now, and I got 48 hours before anybody's allowed to approach me. Correct?
Correct.
And I wonder.
Physically walk up to your door. They can call you.
Correct.
They can even leave a flyer.
They can leave a flyer, but they
Yeah.
walked up to my.
They just cannot pressure sales. I know where you're going at, Steve.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I guess the goal was to avoid pressure sales tactics at a very vulnerable time in somebody's life. I understand.
Yeah, I got problems, but I don't know how to fix them.
Doug and Howard.
Enabling for the localities. I mean, it seems like we're trying to fix something that's
You
more.
have to speak up, buddy.
Oh,
Your
sorry.
mark is loud as all hell over here.
Wouldn't this be better served to be localized or enabling legislation? I mean, it seems like it's a statewide bill for maybe a localized problem or something that a city council or a county council should take up. And I'm also concerned that, if somebody were to.
Guys, I want to get everybody quiet down just a little bit.
I'm also
The record's picking up everything.
concerned that, let's say, for example, my house flooded and a friend of mine made a recommendation. That person called and solicited me.
You can call anybody you want, buddy.
No, I understand that. But that, based on a recommendation, that person called and solicited me. 48 hours is a long time.
They can call you.
48 hours is a long time based on mold. That person called and solicited me or stopped by and solicited me, because they can call you under the bill, correct, sir? But that person stopped by and solicited me based on a friendly recommendation or a neighbor recommendation, they would be in violation of this bill. I feel like the bill, and I would be willing to offer a verbal amendment to make it enabling legislation for the jurisdictions.
Can I ask a question on that scenario? I'm legitimately interested in this. Would, under the bill, all it allow the individual, if somebody stopped by and I signed up, I just now have a rescission period? Or does it it just completely blocks that?
48 hours,
Oh, not-
500 feet. You can't, I mean, that was the testimony, 48 hours, 500 feet. You cannot solicit someone. In-person solicitation. Mike, I understand, sir. I understand. My scenario is that my house floods. My dear seatmate, who once she's done laughing,
over there.
would be, no, seriously, but she makes a recommendation to a friend of hers. That person solicits me, stops by, solicits me. They are in violation of that bill. They come by the next day and say, hey. Right, yeah, no, I understand. No, they could call you, but see, now you're getting into hypotheticals. What I'm saying is that based on, okay, fair enough. Based on the parameters and the language of the bill, if a recommendation is made, let's say by a neighbor, and that person comes by the next day, that plumber, the, ServPro, whoever it is, talk about flooding. That person comes by the next day and I answer the door, and it's within 48 hours, they are in violation of this bill.
They're soliciting in person.
Yes. Yes, they're in violation of the bill. Thank you for clarifying that. Wouldn't this be better served as localized enabling legislation that could be taken up by city or county councils or commissions?
Yeah, I'm more for doing this statewide.
So, yeah, just ram her home. Okay. I don't understand the why, but okay. I mean, it would still have the same positive impact that you would want if you needed it in your localized jurisdiction. Well, then why do we need the bill? If localized jurisdictions can do it now, why do we need the statewide bill? So so essentially no answer. Okay.
Question to the council. So what if this happens? What's the penalty?
It's a violation, it's an unfair and abusive or deceptive trade practices, and subject to the Consumer Protection Act.
And this, under their penalties. Oh, okay. I did.
True, but if you didn't use their service and somebody was in, and you're talking about people whose houses just burned down, it's flooded, they're worried about Red Cross.
One concern that I just thought of, and this is, I know it's late and I'm probably wearing everybody's patience. So like in North Carolina, which was the most recent massive natural disaster, phones were out. All the infrastructure was out. There was no email, no phones, no way to communicate other than showing up in person. And so the only question I would have is would there be any appetite? Okay, there we go.
No, his point is, if there's a natural disaster and all that's out, now what? How you help people? Natural disaster, everything's out. Very good example. Better hear it now than on the floor.
An amendment anyway.
Next bill, please. Is this, are we holding David's?
No, we're gonna let it go.
Which one, 1419?
Yeah, 1419.
House Bill 1419 makes certain technical changes and clarifications related to the administration of a pilot program or temporary tariff established under the Distributed Renewable Integration and Vehicle Electrification Act, also known as the DRIVE Act. There are 3 amendments. One amendment clarifies participation requirements in the pilot program under the DRIVE Act. The second amendment requires the PSC to authorize an electric company to collect certain data. And the third amendment strikes the use of a certain accounting technique to recover costs under the program.
On the amendments, any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Move the bill as amended.
On the bill as amended? Any discussion? We did too. Yep, you see me waiting. Yeah, I'm trying to give you some time.
Is that the withdrawal though at the end?
I got you. Did we already move it?
Yep.
All right, on the bill as amended, Mr. Vice Chair.
Aye.
Delegate Harrison. Delegate Boafo. Delegate Howard. Delegate Charkoudian. Delegate Rose. Delegate Pruski. Delegate Fennell. Delegate Turner. Delegate Valderrama. Delegate Chi. Delegate Frazier-Dago. Delegate Adams. Delegate Ernst. Delegate Pippi. Delegate Johnson. Delegate Rogers. Delegate Amprey. Delegate Wyval. Delegate Fisher. Delegate Queen.
Hold 15, 16.
What are we doing with this again?
Want to hold it? They're
On your bill? So we're holding that. Right. No, I think that we're going to discuss, we'll just withdraw, we'll discuss the rest.
Move unfavorable withdrawal on House Bill 1170.
The motion is unfavorable withdrawal. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. All present voted aye for withdrawal. All right, colleagues, before we wrap up, we have got to do another voting session. Not now, but we still have to figure out what would be a good time to vote. My concern, I know, but, so we're going to have to do a 9:15 tomorrow, if we could be here on time. We only have about 10 bills to go through. You all right? So we do have that. Just some alcohol. What'd you say? And we have a few more announcements as well. Go ahead, Ms. Joy.
One, all that are going to attend the committee dinner, I need your money tomorrow. We have to do confirmation with the rest.
Is there anybody that's planning on not going?
I can't go. And I'm sorry, I can't.
So, who's not, Amprey's not going, Adams is not going, Delegate Chi is not going, and Delegate Queen. All right, well,
Also, if you put up the windows, please don't raise the windows if you're not gonna take on responsibility to put them down. Because the other day, a bird got in here and cracked them.
And Fisher is on the side of that.
They messed all over the place, so please don't put the windows up. Critters get in. It was bird, and then also,
come on, guys, let's finish this last one up.
also, please have your staff be on the lookout for any bills that are going to the floor, and then you're going to be a floor leader. So, we're gonna be working.
We'll send a
tonight,
text
so
if there's a surprise and you're gonna be a floor leader. You'll get some kind of notification, right? All right, I think that concludes everything we're talking about. Thank you guys very much for the voting. Please be here tomorrow at 9:15. Who's